What is up, my fellow Enjoybians? I am Logan, the Totally Epic Gamer, and today, as you guys may have seen, I'm posting a lot of speed runs. So I thought, you know what? The most important part is the build I'm using to make these speed runs possible. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing you can see right away is that I'm using Inferno Seed. Now, Earthborn Assault Rifle is actually very good for it. You know, it has the pop from the Bone Shrapnel, which is actually huge. If anything, it might actually be faster than Wrath of Moloch, but since I didn't actually get a very good one right at the beginning, I used Wrath of Moloch, and I'm okay with that. It does a very good job, and I think it's quite strong. And the real reason is critical hits cause an explosion, dealing about 200k damage and causing burn on enemies within 3 seconds. If the timer was lower, about 1 second, it would be unbelievable, but since it's a 3-second cooldown, it's a little bit more brutal. I'm using Dark Sacrifice instead of Killing Spree. Even though Killing Spree likely can amp up very quickly, it gives me ability to kill big monsters right away, which can be really, really important in terms of a speed run. Now, here you see I'm actually using the Iceberg. I would swap this out with Rawurgs, but the real reason I use it is because sometimes I need to shoot an enemy right away. I actually need to use it for the quick pop shot right at the beginning. A mountain outpost is a great example. I shoot a barrel there, so it's not too much of a big deal, but you do want something that's extremely long range, just in case you can get a quick pot shot to kill an enemy or, you know, leash all the enemies towards you during a speed run. So it's actually quite important to have a secondary that's usable. I like to use the sniper rifle. It's very niche, but it can shave about 5 seconds sometimes, and you know, sometimes that's the difference between you getting a new best time and you not getting a new best time. But that's pretty much the end for this. You can use any weapon, but you really want something that causes AoE damage. If it has ultimate damage link, that's okay. Wrath of Moloch is obviously good. Bone Shrapnel is great. Anything like that, you're going to be having a good weapon, and that's really where you want to work with. You definitely want Dark Sacrifice or Killing Spree as the secondary, but in terms of the actual, you know, weapon, Wrath of Moloch is great for me and my purposes. Moving on to the headpiece. Pretty basic, long range, bonus firepower, skills life leech. Skills life leech just saved me more times than I can count, so I do have it on one piece of gear. I think it's just really strong. I know it seems better to do close range, you know, 10% damage, but overall, I think this keeps me alive and I can play more risky, and by being able to play more risky, I'm actually able to increase my times in the first place. And of course, for mods, Captain Hunter Bloodlust, nothing too crazy going on there, very basic. Here, I'm actually using Robe of the Borealis Monarch, and you'll see this very often with speedrunners. The real reason is because, first off, it's guaranteed. Status power long range. Maybe you could get a better piece by putting Icicle Storm and Splash Boost on something different, but the status power actually is kind of helpful, and close range damage doesn't come up as often as you might think. Whenever somebody's in close range, you're likely popping them with Icicle Storm anyways, so it's actually not too big of a deal. The reason for Icicle Storm, great AoE. It's just a really strong ability. It's a way to do 1 million or 2 million damage within a half second. Massively good. And Splash Boost. Splash Boost, it's like you're adding ultimate damage link to each one of your shots. It's extremely useful if you're trying to kill an alpha Perfora and it's got little minions beside it. You're only shooting the alpha and killing everybody. And by increasing the radius of the shots, you're actually being able to, you know, jump to that second, third, fourth Perfora that's really far away, or killing that, you know, second rifleman that's beside the breacher. So it's very, very strong, and that's why you run it. This is actually the biggest change here, is just the ability to do more AoE. Moving on, waste cost of the first altered, bonus firepower, close range, long range, very basic understanding, running Euthanizer, and damage absorber. You might think, wow, why aren't you running more damage? Maybe Kingslayer, or, you know, something different, something that's maybe Shattered to do more damage to the frozen enemies. The real reason, damage absorber is what makes you be risky enough to run forward. There's not a lot of survivability in here, and what you need is something that lets you just walk forward as much as possible. Ever since switching to damage absorber, my times have increased massively. I can take on way more. I can get into much more precarious positions and still come out on top, and making sure that I can kill everything, you know, as fast as I humanly can. Now, this comes with the caveat that I can only do that because I know the damage I have is already very strong. So killing things faster is only going to help me in very specific situations. For most times, the minions are what slow people down the most. And since I don't have any problem killing those, I'm not, you know, having to do another burst because I didn't have enough damage. Damage absorber is actually making me be able to be more risky, put myself in better positions while taking damage to make sure that I can actually go as fast as I humanly can. Going on to the gloves, very basic, bonus firepower, long range, close range, sharp eye, and radical therapy. Super simple. We're adding a lot of toxic and we're killing a lot of enemies while aiming down sights, so it's just very basic there. And then critical analysis and toxic lead. Some people don't like critical analysis, but I really do enjoy it. I think it's really strong. I think it increases my damage by quite a lot. And it allows me to kill bigger enemies really, really fast. And of course, toxic lead is a necessity, so what can you do other than just take that? Moving on to the skills, I think it's very obvious. Blighted turret, blighted rounds, and cold snap. Cold snap is really just for the AoE. You can't really run scrapnel. You have to run cold snap, and the real reason is the utility that comes with cold snap and icicle storm and your splash boost is very, very useful with cold snap. And there's a lot of times where you put yourself around 1,000 enemies and you need to make sure they can't shoot you while you've put yourself in such a dangerous position. So that's really why cold snap's being chosen. For our class tree, it's the very basic one. Nothing too crazy here. We're going with firepower, weapon leech, then we're going with armor piercing, crit damage, and then we're going for toxin, vulnerability, and health, and then we're going for long range damage, long range toxic, damage, assault master, assault, armor piercing, two sides of the power, obviously, more long range damage, magazine size, toxic, and empowering antenna. Very basic build. It's a very basic setup. It's your, run and a gun, blighted rounds, firepower build. Now, with all that being said, with all that breakdown happening, I'm going to show you guys live on Chemplant how good this build is and why it's so strong at clearing things really fast and why it's used to get speedrun records. So for the gameplay, we're going to be looking at Chemplant. Now, this is the fastest I've ever done Chemplant, but there's a lot of things to talk about while it's going on. You can see right away that I'm not shooting this marksman until I'm a little bit inside. The real reason here is that those riflemen are very finicky. You can see this one's already actually almost made the way, and I was lucky enough to grab him. And if you get too deep in, the Juggernaut spawn will screw you, because the Juggernaut spawn is actually related to other spawns. You see right here, I move right in, frost, and then I leave that one guy and keep frosting. That's because there's an explosive barrel there. You don't need to worry about shooting that, and this was a very quick time. I know that was a lot to absorb and all that happened, but if you don't get all those riflemen right at the beginning and get that perfect spawn, because the second wave comes on the Juggernaut, then you want to stop. And you hear, right, you see I instantly cold snap, and that's because here, if you could kill those riflemen and kill that captain right away, you're actually in a really, really good position. And the reason for that is the riflemen are what is going to kill your time here. You want to make sure that you get that rifleman right away so that none of them sneak behind you. The breachers and the cutthroats are going to come towards you. You don't need to worry about them, so you can just kind of leave them. You see that I have this huge pool of enemies coming up behind me. Nothing to worry about. I don't have to go searching for any enemies. I've captured all the riflemen, and it's just easy pickings from there. And then, of course, I stand really close so that I can make sure that I can get a very easy pooling of the two people that come out. And, of course, standing in fire is part of what makes this run good, is that you just kind of have to eat it sometimes. And here, right away, cold snap, always save it. I know there's some really good-looking spots there to use cold snap. It is not worth it. And now, for this part of the speed run, I know that I'm not at peak usability here. And the reason because... first off, Sanctuary is a really, really tough start, and I take cover right away. This portion right here is very, very easy to die in. The riflemen all have perfect aim. They're all aiming down sights at you, and there's a lot of them. So I take cover and try and just start blasting them. I realize I'm getting blasted from behind, that there's a little bit of a straggler, and now I need to work on that from there. Now you're going to see right away that I go to the left and not the right. The real reason here is that the left side opens up, and they pool together right away. You can see I get some really good shots here. I was a little bit slow to the punch. I would have liked to be there a little bit sooner, but it's okay. It's not terrible, and it's definitely salvageable in the sense that I had a really good beginning, so it wasn't too bad. And here I get a good cold snap, and then I kind of move on. This second portion is where you're trying to save the most amount of time. People are starting to spread out. You can see it's very, very tight, and because I'm running damage absorber, you can see I just make it out of there. And then I just start blasting because most of them are going to come here. And I'm going to have to deal with the stragglers, I know that, but I've dealt with the biggest part already, and so it's kind of, it's not great, but it's okay for this section. There's definitely some improvements to be made, but there's also a high probability of dying in that spot, so you have to be very, very careful. And I know there's a lot going on there, but just as a little bit of a side note, those spawns are not time-based or kill-based. They're actually side-based, where you are. If you run into the right side, that ironclad will come out every time. And if you run to the left side, they'll come out of those doors every time. And you see right here, Most times people go, oh, you just walk into the thing right away. That's not the case. You really need to go as fast as you can here, because if you kill all the enemies, the door opens right away, right? So you either wait 40 seconds or you kill them fast enough to get in the doorway. Now, of course, we're going to try to go as fast as we can, so I try and open the door right before. Now, this portion, you'll see I throw the blighted turrets. It's because I'm trying to leash the breachers towards me right away. I throw down cold snap before the door opens because I don't want to waste my time throwing down cold snap when I could be shooting. And so that's why I really just do that part. This portion, very simple. There's really not much to it. The doors open in the segments that they open in. Very telegraphed. You kind of just start shooting right as the doors open, so that there's like a little brain delay of when you see and when you shoot. So right as the doors open, you start shooting, because by the time you've actually clicked your mouse, you're good to go. You see here, when I see them, it seems like I start shooting them right as I see them, but I had already started clicking, and that's kind of just what you're seeing there is the grouping of that. And there you can see the tier 3, blighted rounds mod really putting in work. It works really well with Perforas, and it's really, really strong when it comes to situations like this. And you can see there, it looks like I start shooting before I can even see the guy, and it's because I'm just waiting for the door to move. Right as the door moves, I start blasting. Now, there, I like to get really close, and the real reason is because those guys can really spread out and screw you, and that's why it's really important not to. Now, unfortunately, I got the Chemplant bug where the guy won't spawn. Even if you kind of jiggle around, you kind of look away, and for some reason he spawns when you look away, and I was like, yep, I knew it. And there he goes, red dot comes, and I kind of got the bug. That killed about 10 seconds from this time, which was going to be an absolutely banger of a time, but what can you do? And then here, you'll notice I actually kill the brood mother right away, of course, just kind of like slam it as fast as possible, but I don't throw down cold snap. There's a little bug here where no matter what happens, you can't pop the Perforas. I don't know what it is, but you can't pop them with cold snap. So there's no point of icicle storming right away, despite icicle storm right away being very good. And you'll see it right here. I throw it down, shoot the first one, nothing happens, but as I shoot the second wave of Perforas, they actually do pop. So that's why I kind of wait for that section there to come in, because the first wave just won't pop for whatever reason. But yeah, that's Chemplant. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed the build. And thanks for watching. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have some ideas about what can make the build better or what can make the speedrun better, let me know in the comments. But as always, have a great day, guys.